The Void's Edge cantina buzzed with noise from dozens of different species. Smoke drifted through the air from alien pipes and strange drinks. Captain Jake Morrison sat alone at the far end of the bar. He held a glass of synthetic whiskey in his hand and watched the crowd through tired eyes. Jake had been hauling cargo between star systems for 3 years now. He knew this cantina well. It was built into Nexus Station, a massive trading post that floated in neutral space. Here, species from across the galaxy came to trade, drink, and tell stories. Most of the time, Jake kept to himself. He preferred listening to talking. Tonight was different, though. A group of aliens had gathered around the center tables. Their voices grew louder with each drink. Jake could hear them clearly from his spot at the bar. "You soft species know nothing about real danger," growled a tall creature with blue-gray skin. This was Crickstyle, a Zephyrian warrior. His people came from a world called Zephyr Prime. Scars covered his arms and face. Each scar told a story of survival. Crickstall slammed his drink down on the table. The liquid inside glowed bright orange. "On my world, crystal predators hunt in packs of 20 or more. They move like shadows through our cities. Their claws can cut through steel like it is soft butter." The other aliens at the table leaned forward. Some looked impressed. Others looked scared. "These creatures," Crickstall continued, "stand taller than most of you. They have 6 legs and move faster than your eyes can follow. When they hunt, they make no sound. The first sign you see is when your friend next to you falls down in pieces." A female alien with green skin and 4 arms spoke up. This was Commander Veltar of the Nexari. Her species had large black eyes that seemed to see everything. "Crystal predators sound dangerous," she said in a voice like music. "But they are nothing compared to the shadow hunters of Nexus 7. Veltar's 4 hands moved as she spoke. "The shadow hunters live between dimensions. They can reach through solid walls to grab you. They can phase in and out of reality itself. You cannot hide from something that exists in spaces you cannot see or understand." The table grew quiet. Even Crickstyle looked uncomfortable. "My people learn to sense dimensional disturbances," Veltar went on. "We develop special organs that can feel when reality bends. Without this ability, we would have died out long ago. Even now, children on my world sometimes vanish in the night. The shadow hunters take them to places we cannot follow." A massive creature at the next table turned around. This was Thok, a Gorvani trader. His people looked like walking rocks with thick gray skin and small red eyes. He was twice as tall as most humans and probably weighed as much as a small vehicle. "But both of your worlds sound like vacation spots," Thok said with a laugh that sounded like grinding stone. "On Gorvan we face the metal swarms. Millions of tiny creatures that eat any technology they find. They can strip a city bare in hours." Thok pulled out a small device that looked like a scanner. Bite marks covered its surface. "This scanner is 3 days old. I left it outside my ship for 10 minutes. The swarms found it and started eating. If I had not grabbed it back, nothing would be left." He put the damaged device away. "My people live as nomads. We never stay in one place more than a few days. If we do, the swarms will find us. They will eat our ships, our tools, our homes, everything we need to survive." Other aliens around the cantina had started listening. Soon, more species joined the conversation. Each one tried to top the stories they had heard. A snake-like creature called Sithra talked about the storm serpents of Calthan. These creatures rode lightning bolts through her world's constant hurricanes. They could appear anywhere electricity flowed. Her people lived in special buildings that blocked electrical current. Next came Zorak, whose people the Praxians dealt with ice hunters. These predators could freeze prey from the inside out. They moved through blizzards like they were warm summer days. His people had to keep fires burning at all times, or they would die in their sleep. The last to speak was Volanth of the Volthari. Her people faced energy beings that fed on bioelectricity. These creatures drained the life force from any living thing they touched. The Voltheri had to wear special suits that masked their electrical signatures. As each alien told their story, they looked around the table for approval. They wanted to be the one with the most dangerous homeworld. They wanted respect from the others. Jake sipped his whiskey and listened to it all. He had heard stories like these before. Every species in the galaxy seemed to have survived some kind of nightmare world. It was like a badge of honor for them. The aliens started noticing the lone human at the bar. Crystal pointed at Jake with one of his clawed fingers. "Human," the Zephyrian called out, "you have been quiet all night." "What? Predators did your people survive? What horror shaped your species into warriors?" The cantina grew quieter. Other conversations stopped as aliens turned to listen. Everyone knew that humans were new to the galaxy. They had only made contact 50 years ago. Most species were still curious about them. Jake looked up from his drink. He saw dozens of eyes staring at him. Some looked curious. Others looked challenging. A few looked almost hungry for a good story. "Well," Jake said slowly, "Earth does have some interesting predators." He stood up from his bar stool and walked over to the group. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Jake was not tall compared to most of the aliens, but he moved with easy confidence. "You want to hear about the creatures that shaped humanity?" Jake asked. He pulled out an empty chair and sat down. "I suppose I could tell you a few stories." The aliens leaned forward eagerly. Finally, they would hear what made humans tick. What terrible beasts had forged this new species into galactic citizens? Jake smiled, but there was something strange about it. Something that made a few of the more observant aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. "But first," Jake said, "you might want to order another round of drinks. And maybe sit back in your chairs a bit more. Some of you look a little tense." The bartender, a six-armed creature named Blip, started preparing more drinks without being asked. He had worked in cantinas long enough to know when a good story was coming. Jake waited until everyone had fresh drinks in front of them. He took a sip of his whiskey and set the glass down carefully on the table. "So," he began, "let me tell you about wolves." The word meant nothing to the aliens. They had never heard of wolves before. But something in Jake's tone made them pay close attention. There was a quality to his voice that suggested they were about to hear something important. Jake looked around the table at all the different species. Warriors who had survived crystal predators and shadow hunters. Traders who lived in constant fear of metal swarms. Beings who had adapted to ice hunters and energy parasites. They all waited to hear about Earth's great predators. The terrible beasts that had shaped humanity into what they were today. Jake's smile grew a little wider. In the cantina's dim lighting, it looked almost predatory. "This should be interesting," he said quietly. Jake took another sip of his whiskey and looked around the table. All the aliens were watching him with eager eyes. They wanted to hear about the terrible predators that had made humans into warriors. "Wolves," Jake said again, letting the word hang in the air. They were pack hunters, very smart. They could track prey for days across huge distances. Once they picked a target, they never gave up. Crystal nodded approvingly. This sounded like proper predators. "How big were these wolves?" the Zephyrian asked. "About this tall," Jake said, holding his hand at waist level. "Maybe 60 or 70 pounds for a big one?" They had sharp teeth and strong jaws. Their bite could crush bones. The aliens looked less impressed now. These wolves sounded dangerous but not terrifying. Commander Veltar waved one of her 4 hands dismissively. "That is not so large," she said. "Surely your people had bigger threats than small pack hunters." Jake smiled. "Oh, wolves were just the beginning. But here's the interesting part about wolves." He pulled out his personal datapad and scrolled through some files. "Let me show you something." He turned the screen toward the aliens. The image showed a large, furry creature with pointed ears and a long tail. It was running across a field with a small human child on its back. The child was laughing and holding on to the creature's fur. "This is a Volf?" Jake said casually. The table went silent. Thok leaned forward, his small red eyes squinting at the screen. "That cannot be right. You said wolves were dangerous predators." They were, Jake agreed, but humans domesticated them. We turned them into companions. We call them dogs now. Most human families have at least one. They sleep in our beds, play with our children, and compete in contests to see who can catch flying discs the best. Jake swiped to another image. This one showed dozens of dogs of different sizes and colors. Some were tiny enough to fit in a person's hands, others were massive and fluffy. All of them were wearing colorful ribbons and standing next to smiling humans. "This is a dog show," Jake explained. "Humans breed dogs for different traits. Some are for hunting, some for protection, some just for companionship. We've created hundreds of different types from the original wolves." Volanth spoke up, her voice uncertain. "You captured these predators and forced them to serve you?" "No," Jake said, shaking his head. "We formed partnerships with them. It took thousands of years, but eventually wolves and humans learned to work together. They helped us hunt, and we shared our food with them. Over time, they became loyal to us." He swiped to another image. This one showed a Wolf-like dog pulling a sled across snow. A human in heavy winter clothes sat on the sled, guiding the animal with ropes. In cold regions of Earth, dogs pull sleds for humans. They can run for hours through snow and ice. Some of them are so loyal they will die before they abandon their human partners. The aliens exchanged glances. This was not what they expected to hear. Sithra, the snake-like Kalthani, spoke next. "What about larger predators? Surely your world had more dangerous creatures than these wolves." Jake nodded. "Oh yes, much more dangerous. Let me tell you about bears." He scrolled to a new image. This one showed a massive brown creature standing on its back legs. It was taller than 3 humans stacked on top of each other. Its claws were longer than knife blades. "Bears could weigh over 1,000 pounds, Jake said. They had crushing jaw strength and claws that could tear through almost anything. They could run faster than most vehicles and climb trees better than most primates. They were omnivores, which meant they ate everything: plants, fish, other animals, and sometimes humans." Now the aliens looked more interested. Zorak leaned forward. "These sound like proper predators. How did your people defend against them?" Jake smiled and swiped to the next image. It showed a brown bear wearing a small hat and riding a bicycle. Humans in colorful clothes were cheering and clapping around it. "We taught them to ride bicycles," Jake said simply. The cantina grew very quiet. Even the background noise from other tables seemed to fade. "You did what?" Crystal asked slowly. "Bears are very intelligent," Jake explained. "Humans learn to train them for entertainment. They perform in circuses and shows. This bear is probably better at riding a bicycle than most humans are." He swiped to another image. This one showed a bear sitting at a small table, eating from a bowl with a spoon. Some bears even learn to use simple tools. They can be taught to eat with utensils, wear clothes, and perform complex tricks. Humans find this entertaining. Thok made a sound like grinding rocks. "Your people turned apex predators into circus performers?" "Not all of them," Jake said. "Wild bears still exist on Earth, but humans and bears generally avoid each other now. We've learned to coexist." He put away the datapad and looked around the table. The aliens were staring at him with expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. "But let me tell you about the really impressive predators," Jake continued. "Big cats." Commander Veltar perked up. "Cats? Like small hunting animals?" "Not small," Jake said. "Lions, tigers, leopards, jaguars. Pure killing machines evolved over millions of years. They had night vision, retractable claws, and the ability to take down prey many times their size." He pulled up another image on his datapad. This one showed a massive orange and black striped cat. Its teeth were visible as it roared at the camera. Tigers could weigh over 600 pounds. They were solitary hunters who could kill with a single bite to the neck. Their night vision was 6 times better than human vision. They could leap over 20 feet in a single bound. The aliens nodded. Now this sounded like proper Deathworld predators. Jake swiped to the next image. It showed the same type of striped cat, but this one was jumping through a large ring of fire. Humans in strange costumes were standing around it, holding sticks and treats. "We taught them to jump through hoops for entertainment," Jake said. The silence at the table was now complete. Even the bartender Blip had stopped cleaning glasses to listen. "Lions were called the king of beasts," Jake continued, showing an image of a large cat with a thick mane around its head. "They lived in groups called prides and could take down creatures much larger than themselves." He swiped to show lions sitting on pedestals, responding to commands from humans with whips and chairs. "We put them in shows where they perform tricks for crowds of children. The humans with the whips are called tamers. It's considered a form of art." Sithra's voice was barely a whisper. "You turned the kings of beasts into performers?" "Some of them," Jake agreed. "But here's the really interesting part." He showed them an image of a small, fluffy creature with pointed ears and a long tail. It was sitting in someone's lap, making a content expression. "We also created smaller versions for companionship, house cats. Most humans keep them as pets. They sleep on our beds, sit on our laps, and make a sound called purring when they're happy." Jake scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Actually, house cats are still pretty good hunters. They kill billions of small animals every year, even when they're well-fed. They just hunt for fun." The aliens were now staring at Jake with something approaching horror. "You live with miniature predators that kill for pleasure?" Volanth asked. "We find it endearing," Jake said with a shrug. "We even make toys that look like prey animals for them to hunt. It keeps them entertained." At that moment, Captain Lisa Harper approached the table. She had been playing cards at a corner table and overheard part of the conversation. Lisa was a cargo hauler like Jake, but she specialized in livestock transport. "Jake, are you telling the predator story again?" she asked with a grin. "I'm just getting started," Jake replied. "I was about to mention crocodiles." Lisa pulled up a chair. "Oh, you have to tell them about crocodiles. They're going to love this." The aliens looked at each other nervously. They were beginning to realize that this conversation was not going the way they expected. Lisa Harper pulled her chair closer to the table and looked at the group of aliens. Their faces showed confusion and growing worry. She had seen this reaction before when humans talked about Earth's animals. "Crocodiles," Lisa said, pulling out her own data pad. "Now these are what I call proper predators." She showed them an image of a massive reptile floating in dark water. Only its eyes and the top of its head were visible above the surface. The creature looked ancient and dangerous. "Crocodiles are living dinosaurs," Lisa explained. "They've been around for over 200 million years. They survived whatever killed the big dinosaurs because they were already perfect killing machines." Crystal leaned forward to look at the image more closely. "How big do they grow?" "The largest ones can reach 20 feet long and weigh over a ton," Lisa said. "They have the strongest bite force of any animal on Earth. Their jaws can snap shut, with more pressure than your crystal predators could ever imagine." She swiped to another image showing the inside of a crocodile's mouth. Rows of sharp teeth filled the screen. Those teeth are designed to grip and tear. Once a crocodile grabs something, it performs what we call a death roll. It spins its entire body to rip apart whatever it caught. The aliens nodded slowly. Finally, they were hearing about a proper Earth predator. "They can hold their breath underwater for over an hour," Lisa continued. "They float like logs, waiting for prey to come close. When something drinks from the water, the crocodile explodes upward, faster than most creatures can react." Thok made an approving sound. "These sound like worthy opponents. How did humans fight such creatures?" Lisa smiled and swiped to the next image. It showed a human man with his head inside a crocodile's open mouth. The crocodile was alive and awake. A crowd of people sat around them, clapping and cheering. "We stick our heads in their mouths for entertainment," Lisa said casually. The silence that followed was so complete that everyone could hear the hum of the station's air recycling system. "You do what?" Commander Veltar whispered. "It's called a crocodile show," Lisa explained. "Humans train with crocodiles until they understand their behavior perfectly. Then they perform dangerous tricks with them." "Putting your head in a crocodile's?" Mouth is considered the ultimate test of skill. She swiped to another image. This one showed a human wrestling with a large crocodile in shallow water. The human had his arms wrapped around the reptile's body and was holding its mouth shut with his bare hands. Some humans wrestle crocodiles as a sport. They have competitions to see who can subdue a crocodile the fastest without getting hurt. Sithrus? Snake-like body coiled tighter around her chair. Why would anyone do such a thing? Because it's exciting, Lisa said with a shrug. Humans enjoy testing themselves against dangerous predators. It makes them feel alive. Jake nodded in agreement. Lisa's right. But crocodiles aren't even the scariest predators in Earth's waters. Let me tell you about sharks. He took control of Lisa's datapad and scrolled to a new image. This one showed a massive gray fish with rows of triangular teeth. Its black eyes looked cold and emotionless. Sharks are the ocean's perfect predators, Jake said. They've remained virtually unchanged for 400 million years, because evolution couldn't improve on their design. The image showed a great white shark with its mouth open. The teeth looked like dozens of sharp knives arranged in perfect rows. Great whites can grow over 20 feet long and weigh more than 2 tons. They can swim at 35 miles per hour and detect a single drop of blood in the water from miles away. Their bite force can cut through steel. Volanth leaned back in her chair. These sound like the energy feeders of my world. How do humans avoid them? Jake swiped to the next image. It showed a human in a metal cage underwater. Outside the cage, several large sharks were swimming in circles. One shark was biting the cage while the human inside took pictures. We go swimming with them, Jake said simply. The aliens stared at the image in disbelief. This is called cage diving, Jake explained. Humans pay money to be lowered into shark-infested waters. They watch the sharks swim around them and try to get close enough to touch them. He swiped to another image. This one showed a human swimming in open water next to a massive shark. There was no cage, no protection. The human was actually touching the shark's fin. Some humans swim with sharks without cages. They study shark behavior so well that they can predict what the sharks will do. The sharks usually ignore them. Zorak made a choking sound. Humans swim with perfect killing machines for fun? Some do, Jake agreed, but others take it even further. The next image showed a human riding on the back of a large shark. The person was holding onto the shark's dorsal fin like it was a handle. Shark riding is illegal in most places now, Jake said. But some humans still do it. They grab sharks and ride them like underwater horses. At that moment, engineer Danny Brooks entered the cantina. He was covered in grease and oil from working on ship repairs in the docking bay. Danny looked around and spotted the group at the table. Hey, Jake, Lisa, he called out as he walked over. Are you telling the domestication story? Just getting to the good parts, Lisa replied. Danny grabbed a beer from a passing service droid and pulled up another chair. What have you covered? So far? Wolves, bears, big cats, crocodiles, and sharks, Jake said. Danny laughed and shook his head. You haven't even mentioned the really impressive examples yet. What about horses? The aliens looked confused. They had never heard this word before. Danny pulled out his own datapad and showed them an image of a large four-legged animal with a flowing mane. A human was sitting on its back, holding rope-like straps. Horses were originally prey animals. Danny explained. They evolved to run away from predators. They're incredibly fast and powerful. A full-grown horse can run at 40 miles per hour and weighs over 1,000 pounds. He swiped to an image of wild horses running across a field. Their muscles rippled under their coats as they moved. For thousands of years, horses were faster and stronger than anything humans could build. They could kick hard enough to break bones and run far enough to escape any pursuit. Thok looked at the image with interest. How did humans capture such fast prey animals? That's the impressive part, Danny said. Humans didn't just capture horses. They formed partnerships with them that changed both species forever. He showed them an image of armored humans on horseback, carrying long spears and shields. Mounted warriors became the most feared fighters on Earth. The combination of human Intelligence and horse speed created something neither species could achieve alone. Danny swiped to more images showing horses and humans working together. Horses, pulling carts, racing with human riders, and performing complex movements that look like dancing. Humans and horses developed such a close bond that horses would mourn when their human partners died. Some horses refused to eat after losing their riders. The aliens were starting to look deeply uncomfortable. This was not how predator and prey relationships were supposed to work. But that's nothing compared to elephants, Danny continued. He showed them an image of a massive gray creature with long tusks and a flexible trunk. The animal was easily 3 times larger than the largest alien at the table. Elephants weigh up to 7 tons. They have thick armor-like skin, tusks that can pierce through almost anything, and intelligence that rivals most sentient species in the galaxy. The image showed an elephant using its trunk to lift an entire tree out of the ground. They can uproot trees, destroy buildings, and crush vehicles without effort. For centuries, they were one of the few creatures on Earth that humans genuinely feared. Crystal finally found his voice. Now you speak of proper threats. How did humans defend against such giants? Danny smiled and swiped to the next image. It showed an elephant with a human child sitting on its head. The elephant was using its trunk to gently lift the child up and down while the child laughed with delight. They became our friends, Danny said quietly. The aliens around the table were no longer making eye contact with the humans. They stared at their drinks or at the table surface. The confident boasting from earlier in the evening had completely disappeared. Danny showed them more images of elephants and humans together. In one picture, an elephant was painting on a canvas with a brush held in its trunk. Humans stood nearby, watching and clapping. Elephants are so intelligent that they can create art, Danny explained. They paint pictures that humans buy and display in their homes. Some elephant paintings sell for thousands of human credits. He swiped to another image showing an elephant gently touching a small human child with its trunk. The child was smiling and not afraid at all. Elephants recognize individual humans and remember them for decades. They show grief when humans die. They have been known to visit the graves of their human friends and stand there quietly for hours. Volanth spoke in a whisper. How is this possible? How do you form bonds with creatures that could crush you? That's exactly what I was wondering, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. Rachel Stone approaching the table. She was the head of security for the station, but she also had a background in xenobiology. Rachel had been sitting at a nearby table, reading reports on her datapad. She had been listening to the conversation for the past few minutes. Mind if I join you? Rachel asked, pulling up a chair without waiting for an answer. I think I can explain what your friends here are really telling you. The aliens looked at her with a mixture of hope and fear. Maybe this human could make sense of what they were hearing. What Jake, Lisa, and Danny have been describing isn't unusual for humans. Rachel began. It's actually the normal way humans interact with other species on Earth. She pulled out her own datapad and scrolled through several files. But they haven't told you about the most disturbing example yet. Let me tell you about dolphins. Rachel showed them an image of a sleek, gray creature jumping out of the water. It looked almost friendly, with what appeared to be a permanent smile on its face. The dolphins have intelligence comparable to most galactic species. They have sophisticated communication, complex social structures, and problem-solving abilities that sometimes surpass human capabilities. The aliens leaned forward slightly. This sounded more like equals than prey or predators. They use tools, they have names for each other, and they can recognize themselves in mirrors. They understand abstract concepts and can learn human languages. Sithra looked confused. This sounds like a proper sentient species. Surely humans treat them with respect? Rachel smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Dolphins are one of the few species on Earth that kills for pleasure, not just survival. The mood at the table changed instantly. They wage wars against other dolphin groups, Rachel continued. They torture other sea creatures for entertainment. They hunt in coordinated attacks that require military-level planning and execution. She swiped to a new image showing a group of dolphins surrounding a much larger whale. The dolphins were working together, taking turns attacking the whale from different angles. Dolphins will hunt whales 50 times their size. They work as a team to exhaust and kill creatures that should be impossible to defeat. Crystal found his voice. These sound like proper warriors. Surely humans fear such creatures. Rachel showed them the next image. It displayed a human swimming in open water, surrounded by dolphins. The human was touching the dolphins and they appeared to be playing together. Humans swim with dolphins for recreation, Rachel said. We consider it one of the most peaceful and spiritual experiences possible. The aliens stared at the image in shock. But here's the truly disturbing part, Rachel continued. She swiped to an image showing dolphins jumping through hoops while humans watched from bleachers. We train them to perform in shows. Dolphins, with their advanced intelligence and natural killer instincts, voluntarily perform tricks for human entertainment. She showed them more images. Dolphins playing ball with humans, dolphins allowing humans to ride on their backs, dolphins voluntarily rescuing drowning humans from the ocean. Despite being intelligent killers, dolphins actively choose to help humans. They save human lives. They protect human swimmers from sharks, and they seem to genuinely enjoy human company. Commander Veltar's 4 hands were shaking slightly. You formed partnerships with intelligent killers? It gets worse, Rachel said. Dolphins seek out human contact. They approach human boats and swimming areas on their own. They initiate the interaction. She put away her datapad and looked around the table at the increasingly disturbed aliens. Every species you've heard about tonight follows the same pattern. Humans didn't survive these predators by hiding or running away. We studied them, understood them, and formed relationships with them. Danny nodded in agreement. Rachel's right. It's not just about survival. Humans actively seek out the most dangerous creatures on our planet. Why? Falk asked. His voice sounded smaller than before. Lisa answered. Because we find them interesting. Humans are curious about predators. We want to understand how they think, how they hunt, how they live. Jake added, we don't just want to avoid dangerous creatures. We want to know everything about them. But that requires something very specific, Rachel said quietly. To successfully understand a predator well enough to predict its behavior, to form a bond with it, to train it or work with it, you have to think like it thinks. The aliens were very quiet now. You have to understand hunting strategies, pack dynamics, territorial behavior, and killing techniques better than the predators themselves understand them, Rachel continued. She looked around the table at each alien. Every successful domestication, every partnership, every bond between humans and predators required humans to become experts in predator psychology. Danny pulled up an image on his datapad showing ancient cave paintings. The drawings depicted humans hunting massive creatures with spears and coordinated tactics. Human history is full of organized hunts, he said. We developed strategies that could track and kill creatures many times larger than individual humans. The image showed humans driving entire herds of large animals over cliffs. We used persistence hunting. We could literally run prey to death over days-long pursuits. We developed tools that allowed us to kill from distances that gave prey no chance to fight back. Lisa added, humans didn't hunt just for survival. We hunted the largest, most dangerous creatures on Earth for resources we wanted but didn't need. She showed them an image of a massive whale being hauled onto a ship by dozens of humans. We hunted whales that were longer than most spacecraft, creatures with intelligence and complex social bonds. We hunted them nearly to extinction for lamp oil and perfume ingredients. The aliens were staring at the humans with growing horror. We didn't hunt them because we were afraid, Jake said. We hunted them because we could. Rachel stood up and walked to the large viewport that looked out over the docking bay. She pointed to Jake's cargo ship, the New Frontier. You want to know what's really scary? She asked. That ship contains a crew section with pictures of Earth animals. All the creatures we've been talking about tonight. But it also contains a cargo hold full of human-manufactured goods. She turned back to face the table. Art, music, literature, entertainment systems, and food. Products of human culture and creativity. We're not just predators, Rachel said. Quietly, we're predators who got so good at being predators that we had time to develop philosophy, ethics, and art. The silence stretched on for several minutes. Finally, Crickstall asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What kind of species becomes the ultimate predator and then chooses to create beauty instead of destruction? Jake looked around the table at all the different species. Warriors, traders, and survivors who had spent the evening boasting about surviving their homeworld predators. The kind that never forgot what it was capable of, he said. The cantina stayed quiet for a long time after Jake spoke. The aliens sat with their drinks, but none of them were drinking. They stared at the table or at their hands. The confident warriors who had been boasting about their dangerous homeworlds now looked small and uncertain. Rachel sat back down and looked around the table. She could see the fear and confusion in the alien faces. This reaction always happened when humans explained their relationship with Earth's predators. I can see you're all thinking about what we've told you, Rachel said gently. But there's one more thing you need to understand. She pulled out her datapad again and showed them an image of a small, fluffy creature with large eyes and pointed ears. It looked harmless and cute. This is a house cat, she said. Remember when Jake mentioned them earlier? They're the small versions of the big cats we domesticated. The aliens nodded slowly. They remembered. House cats kill over 20 billion small animals every year on Earth, Rachel continued. Birds, rodents, reptiles, insects. They kill even when they're well fed and have no need for food. She swiped to an image showing a cat playing with a small mouse. The mouse was still alive, but clearly terrified. They don't kill quickly like most predators. They play with their prey first. They catch something, let it go, catch it again, and repeat this process until the prey dies from exhaustion or fear. Volanth made a small sound of distress. Cats hunt for pleasure, Rachel explained. They enjoy the process of stalking, catching, and killing. It's entertainment for them. She showed them another image of a cat bringing a dead bird to a human. The human was smiling and petting the cat. When cats bring dead animals to their human owners, the humans praise them for it. We celebrate their hunting skills. We think it's cute. Danny leaned forward. And here's the really interesting part. Humans created an entire industry around making toys for cats to hunt. He showed them images of small fake mice, balls with feathers and laser pointers that created moving dots of light. We make artificial prey for our domesticated predators to chase and kill. We watch them do it and find it amusing. The aliens were looking sick now, Lisa spoke up. But cats are just one example. Humans have relationships like this with hundreds of different species. She pulled up images of humans with various animals. Dogs catching frisbees, horses jumping over fences, dolphins doing tricks, elephants painting pictures. Every single one of these relationships required humans to understand the animal better than it understood itself, Lisa said. We had to learn their psychology, their instincts, their fears, and their desires. Jake nodded. And to do that successfully, we had to become better predators than they were. He stood up and walked to the viewport again. His cargo ship sat in the docking bay, looking ordinary and peaceful. My ship carries art supplies, musical instruments, books, and entertainment systems, he said. Products made by a species that spent millions of years perfecting the art of killing. He turned back to face the table. But somewhere along the way, we chose to create instead of destroy. Rachel added, the key word there is chose. Humans didn't lose their predatory abilities, we still have them. We just decided to use them differently. She showed them an image of human children playing in a park. The children were running around, laughing and having fun. Human children play games that simulate hunting and warfare. Tag, hide and seek, capture the flag. We're teaching our young to think like predators from an early age. Danny showed them images of human sports. Football players tackling each other, martial arts competitions, boxing matches. Most human entertainment involves simulated conflict. We compete against each other in organized battles that test speed, strength, strategy, and endurance. Lisa pulled up images of human military training. Soldiers working together in coordinated formations, learning to use weapons and tactics. When humans need to fight, we're very good at it. We can organize thousands of individuals into efficient killing machines. We can plan complex strategies that span continents and last for years. The aliens were listening with growing dread. But most of the time we choose not to, Jake said. We use those same organizational skills to build cities, explore space, create art, and help other species. He gestured around the cantina. This space station exists because humans and other species chose to cooperate instead of fighting. We trade goods, share knowledge, and work together on projects. Rachel stood up and walked over to Crystal. The Zephyrian warrior shrank back slightly as she approached. Your people survived crystal predators by becoming better warriors, she said. You adapted to fight them, to hide from them, to defend against them. She moved to Commander Veltar. Your people developed special senses to detect dimensional hunters. You learn to avoid them and escape from them. She walked around the table, addressing each alien. All of your species survived by becoming better at running, hiding, or defending. You adapted to avoid your predators, Rachel returned to her seat. Humans adapted differently. We didn't learn to run from predators. We learned to think like them, to understand them, and eventually to control them. Jake pulled up one final image on his datapad. It showed a human family having a picnic in a park. A dog was playing with the children while cats lounged in the sun nearby. In the background, horses grazed peacefully in a field. This is what human civilization looks like, he said. We live surrounded by creatures that were once our competitors, our threats, and our prey, but now they're our partners, our companions, and our friends. The alien stared at the image for a long time. Finally, Thok spoke. His voice was very quiet. You turned your entire planet into allies. Most of it, Lisa agreed. There are still wild animals on Earth, but they generally avoid human areas now. We've learned to coexist. Commander Veltar asked the question that had been building all evening. What does this mean for the rest of us? Jake looked around the table at the various species. It means you're safe, he said simply. Humans chose to become protectors instead of predators. We help defend weaker species instead of hunting them, Rachel nodded. But it also means you should understand what humans are capable of. We didn't lose our predatory nature, we chose to control it. Danny added, when humans form alliances, we're loyal to them. When we make promises, we keep them. When we trade, we deal fairly. Lisa continued, but if someone threatens our friends or attacks our allies, they discover that humans still remember how to hunt. The silence that followed was different from the earlier uncomfortable quiet. This silence contained respect mixed with wariness. Slowly, the aliens began to finish their drinks. One by one, they stood up from the table, nodded politely to the humans, and left the cantina. They had a lot to think about. Within an hour, only the humans remained at the table. Jake looked around at his friends and smiled. Well, that went better than last time, he said. Rachel laughed. Remember that Corvin trader who fainted when you showed him the shark riding video? That was pretty funny, Danny agreed. But I think these guys handled it well. They just need time to process it. Lisa finished her drink and stood up. I should get back to my ship. Early departure tomorrow. The others began to gather their things as well. Jake picked up his datapad and headed toward the door. As they walked through the station corridors, they passed other aliens who looked at them with new expressions. Word had already started to spread about the conversation in the cantina. Some aliens nodded respectfully. Others moved aside to let the humans pass. A few looked scared, but most just looked thoughtful. Jake reached his ship and paused at the airlock. Through the station's viewports, he could see other ships preparing to depart. Soon, stories about humanity would spread to dozens of different worlds. He smiled and entered his ship. Tomorrow he would deliver his cargo of art supplies and musical instruments to another system. Another small step in showing the galaxy what humans had chosen to become. Behind him, the station continued its quiet work of bringing different species together for trade and cooperation. And in cantinas throughout the galaxy, the story of the humans and their tame predators would be told and retold. The galaxy was learning that the most dangerous predators weren't always the ones with the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. Sometimes they were the ones who chose to smile instead of bite.